Hey, welcome. Today we're going to dive into an idea you probably think you know, loving kindness. But we're going to strip away all the fuzzy sentiment and look at it for what it actually is, a really powerful biological tool you can use to regulate your own nervous system.
But before we get into the science, I want you to just sit with this question for a second. I mean, really think about it. When was the last time you offered that kind of genuine warmth and care to yourself? For a lot of us, the honest answer is, well, rarely, maybe even never. And it turns out there's a very real biological reason for that, and we're about to unpack it.
So, this practice we're talking about, it's often translated as loving kindness or metta. And let's be real, that can sound kind of soft, right? Sentimental, like something you'd see on a cross-stitch pillow. But the reality, it couldn't be more different. This isn't just some nice philosophy. It's a precise biological intervention. It's a tool. To really get why this tool is so powerful, we first have to understand the problem it's built to solve. And that problem is that voice in our heads we all know so well, the inner critic. We tend to think of it as just a part of our personality, maybe a flaw, but it's not. It's actually a biological program, and it's running on autopilot.
See, your inner critic wasn't born with you. It was built. It was actually a brilliant survival strategy you came up with as a kid. You figured, hey, if I can find every single one of my flaws before anyone else does, then their criticism won't hurt so much. It was meant to be a shield. The only problem is, that shield is now totally obsolete, and it's doing a lot of friendly fire. So let's be really clear about something. That critical voice in your head, it is not motivating you. It's not discipline. It is, quite literally, a machine that generates the stress hormone cortisol. And for many of us, that machine has been running nonstop for decades. And here's what happens in your body when it fires up. Your system treats every single critical thought like it's a real-life threat, like there's a tiger in the room. So you get a huge spike of cortisol. That stress hormone immediately knocks your conductor, the rational thinking part of your brain, offline. And guess who takes over? Your reactive, emotional child brain, which is only focused on one thing, surviving the next 5 seconds. Okay, so if self-criticism is basically a biological poison, then what's the antidote? Well, this is where self-compassion, this metta practice, comes in. We're talking about a direct, scientific way to rewrite your own body chemistry right in the moments you need it most. And this is the absolute magic of this practice. It's a scientific fact that your brain and your nervous system cannot tell the difference between compassion you receive from someone who truly loves you and compassion that you generate for yourself. The biological effect, it's identical. So this means you literally have a choice in your own biology. On one side, you have the inner critic that triggers cortisol, a threat response, and it shuts down your smart, thoughtful brain. But on the other side, you have self-compassion. This lowers cortisol, it releases oxytocin, that's the love and connection hormone, and it brings your conductor right back online. You are actively switching yourself from a state of threat to a state of care. Okay, so how do we actually do this? This isn't some vague, fuzzy feeling. It's a structured practice with a clear operating manual. And you know what? It's remarkably simple. These are the 4 core phrases. That's it, just 4 simple wishes. The whole goal is just to direct these sentences toward yourself with as much genuine warmth as you can possibly manage. And listen, it's okay if it feels super strange or even like you don't deserve it at first. That's normal. Now, this next part is the most important rule in the entire manual. It is also the one that most of us fight against. The practice does not start with your family, your friends, or the world. It starts with you, first, always. And if you feel that little voice inside saying, no, that's selfish, well, that's just your inner critic running its old, outdated program. Think about it this way, right? When you're on an airplane, they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first in an emergency. That's not a lesson in selfishness. It's a lesson in biology. It's a physical impossibility to help anyone else if you've passed out. You simply cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't take care of others when your own system is in red alert. So, once you've started with yourself, once you've started to fill your own cup, the practice then expands outward in these really specific circles. After yourself, you move to someone you love easily. This is to get that feeling of warmth, that oxytocin flowing. Then, a neutral person, like the cashier at the grocery store. This helps break you out of your own anxious thought loops. And finally, the hardest step, a difficult person. But this isn't for them. This is for you. This is how you build your emotional armor. All right, let's just pause and talk about that last step, because I know it's the one that trips a lot of people up. The idea of extending kindness to someone who has hurt you can sound impossible. But the key here is to reframe it. This is not an act of forgiveness. It's an act of profound self-protection.
There's that famous quote, often attributed to the Buddha. When you hold on to all that anger and resentment, who is it really hurting? Every single time you replay what they did, you are the one spiking your own cortisol. You are the one drinking the poison. Meanwhile, that other person is probably out there just living their life, while you're letting them control your nervous system from miles away.
So let's just define this really clearly. Radical compassion for a difficult person is a self-protective cortisol flush. It is not about letting them off the hook. It is about taking away their power to hijack your biology. It is one of the most self-interested, strategic things you can do. It's for you, period. Now, the real goal here isn't just to do this for a few minutes every day. The ultimate goal is to actually shift your entire orientation, to move this from being a formal exercise into being the default setting for your nervous system as you just move through your life. And that shift happens in these tiny little micro moments. It's noticing that inner critic starting up and gently saying to yourself, wow, this is really hard right now. It's seeing someone acting out in traffic and instead of getting angry, having the thought, man, they must be carrying something really heavy today. It's feeling that old resentment start to rise and using those 4 phrases as an immediate circuit breaker.
So here's your practice for this week. I promise it is simple and totally achievable. Twice a day for just 2 minutes. That's it. Sit down quietly, maybe place a hand on your chest to give yourself that physical signal of warmth, and just offer those 4 phrases to yourself. And then, if it feels okay, if it's accessible, extend them to one person you love. That's the whole practice. That's where you start.
So what's the big takeaway from all this? Compassion is not soft, it's not sentimental, it is a biological superpower. It is the most powerful and effective tool you have to flush cortisol from your system and get your conductor back on the podium. But all of its power is only unlocked when you finally realize that it has to begin always with you. The only question left is, are you ready to start using it?